Good evening. That was very loud, sorry. My name is Patrick Brett. I am the director of the College and Career Center here at North Penn. You can finally put a face to the name of the annoying person who has been sending you emails over the past couple weeks. Clearly it worked because many of you came out on this beautiful night, and we appreciate that. I also want to give a shout out to the students who came out, because kudos to you. This is for you as well, because mom and dad are not going to college. They are not doing your college applications. You are. At least I hope you are. Presenting with me tonight from the junior home office, K25, we have Miss Judy McGurman and Mr. Brian Daly. And from the sophomore home office, F40, we have Miss Jennifer Flacco. They'll be talking a little bit later. This presentation will be filmed and edited if we make any mistakes, and sent out to you guys later on in the next couple weeks so that you have it to reference if you have questions and other things may come up. First, I want to talk about NAVIANCE and the new program we have. It's a couple years old. Last year's senior class was the first year to go through it. This year's senior class is the second year, kind of getting their feet under them as a junior class and running with it. And the current junior class hopefully will have an even better idea moving forward. I'll talk about some things that we have asked of the junior and sophomore class, and some ways that you can utilize NAVIANCE to help you prepare for moving forward with obtaining a major or deciding on a major, and also deciding on a college or narrowing down a list. NAVIANCE is not the be-all and end-all. Yes, we push it, we utilize it. It's a great thing for us. It helps us tremendously when we're talking about college applications. We end up sending all transcripts through NAVIANCE. So anytime you apply to a school, we send your transcript electronically with a click of a button through NAVIANCE. So it helps us immensely. It helps you as well as students, but it is not the be-all and end-all. It's a great barometer, but there are so many other resources out there that you can utilize besides NAVIANCE. So please don't feel like you can't use College Board or you can't use the school's websites to get information. What we ask is that whatever you do and whatever schools you pick or have in a list, you have them on NAVIANCE so we can also tell what schools you're looking at. Because within NAVIANCE, we can see everything you do as well. Not that we're trying to be Big Brother, but it helps us when we're sending information off to colleges. Because if you come in next year and apply to a school, and 6 weeks later you come back to me and say, Mr. Brett, my school didn't get my transcript. I go into NAVIANCE and say, that's because you didn't put anything into NAVIANCE. I can't send anything unless there's information in there. So again, it helps everyone, but it's not the be-all, end-all, okay? All right, so let's start out as to what we've asked students to do in NAVIANCE. This is the front page of NAVIANCE. What we're gonna say first is we're gonna go to the About Me tab, the third one over, and we have asked students to do both the Strengths Explorer and the resume. For two reasons. The Strengths Explorer is a licensed test that helps guide students towards a particular area of interest or a particular career area, which can then give you majors to get to that specific career or career area. Resume, for multiple reasons. Resume for a student is very beneficial to start at the 9th grade level or even 10th grade level, because by the time you're applying to college and they're asking for your activities or asking for things that you've done, you can upload this resume to your application, or you have it as a reference to just type everything in. There have been plenty of times where I've sat with a student and they've been doing an application and they say, I need to text my mom. I don't remember when I did this, or I don't remember where I did this. So having this as a reference is a very good thing. On the flip side, when a counselor writes a letter of recommendation or a teacher writes a letter of recommendation, it's very good to have this as a reference so that we as counselors can say, great academically, but also does this, 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 and this. And a teacher can say, this student is so great in my classroom, and they're also able to do this and this. So make sure that we're doing the resume as well as a reference for both you and us. The Strengths Explorer, it's a 78-question Likert scale assessment. Sounds like a lot, takes about 25 minutes. Not very long. So once you complete that, I can't go any further on this because it's a sample account, but once you complete that, these will be your answers. It comes up with different themes and then different areas of study or careers to click on. I just happen to click biotechnology research and development. It gives you an overview, and every single one that it gives you, every answer it gives you, you're going to have this information. The overview, the credentials, the related careers, the related majors, and the plan of study. Currently, the plan of study is what NAVIANCE has shown. We're hoping that at the beginning of next school year, the plan of study won't be not only NAVIANCE, but North Penn's plan of study as well. So if you want to become whatever it is in the biotechnology research and development field, it'll tell you what classes here at North Penn High School to take. So we're hoping that that's in place to start next year. Junior class, a little bit, late for you guys, but the sophomore class may help moving forward to senior year. The resume, extremely simple. I wish this was around when I was building my resume, because what I did, I was in the computer lab in my grad school program and said, hey, can you send me your resume? The person next to me sent their resume to me. I just filled out everything that was mine and changed her name. So as much as that, the hitting tab and the indenting was such a pain, this is incredibly smooth. You go in, I apologize, you hit the drop-down box, it gives you a bunch of areas. You type the information in, select year, select month, put in a little bit more detail, and it populates just like this. And you can make it as long as you want, you can make it as short as you want. But just make sure you have some stuff in there, and every time you do stuff, you can go back in and keep building the resume. So that's what we've asked our juniors and sophomores to complete. We are not going to hunt you down. We are not going to, go into your nighttime class and say, you didn't do this, you need to come down to the College Career Center, because there's about 2,100 sophomores and juniors in those classes. I don't have time to do that. So as much as I'm here for every single one of you, and here for every one of your children, it's up to them to put a little bit of effort into this process, which is post-North Penn High School. So right now we're going to do a college search. We're going to do the basics of a college search. Go to the colleges tab. In the section, which is college research, you go to college search. And you see the tabs across the top, or the blue links across the top. Each one of them is going to have different categories to pick from or different answers to choose from. You can be so broad in these answers, you get 3,000 schools. You can be so specific, you get 2 schools. So make sure there's a good balance of what you're choosing. You can always go back and change it. You can save searches, and you can mix and match different searches so that you get interesting schools you're looking for. When you finish that search, a list will come up. For instance, in this list, we had 15 schools. I could have saved the search. And you'll see the schools here. You can pick those schools. You can add them to the college I'm thinking about. You can compare them. Or you could select the school itself, which I just happened to choose Binghamton. I have no allegiance to Binghamton whatsoever. It brings you up to a page that is specifically for that school. You can do a lot of things on this page. You can go to the actual school's website. You can click the heart, which would then send it into your colleges you're thinking about list. And you can go to each section, the overview, studies, student life, admissions, or cost. The admissions is where I tend to go first. The best thing about the admissions is that every single one of the students in our school, 10th and 11th graders, have taken the PSATs here at North Penn, unless you transferred in after the PSATs. we have your scores in NAVIANCE because they are sent to us and we upload them. So when you go into the admissions part, you can see where you fall GPA-wise and SAT-wise on a graph for that school. Again, barometer, not be-all, end-all. So you're going to see where you fall. It's a good idea to go, okay, I have a shot to get into this school, or, ooh, I might not want to look at this school. Probably not. Another good area to look is the cost. Okay, I might be able to afford this school. My family and I might be able to afford this school, or no way am I affording $80,000 to go to X. So, and there are schools that are upwards of $80,000. We'll talk a little bit about financial aid in the future, but just know that some ideas of schools, some decisions of schools are based on how much schools actually are. Once you put schools in your college I'm thinking about list, as a junior or a sophomore, this list can be as vast as you want it to be. I say put 25, 30 schools in this list. By the time August of your senior year rolls around, if you still have those 25 or 30 schools in that list, we need to have a conversation. You should be applying to anywhere from 3 to 7 schools, 10 at the most. Our record here at North Penn is 31. If you strive to beat that record, we are going to have a conversation. So, sophomores and juniors, if you have this, you'll notice a little discrepancy in what this is. This button right here is not there because you're currently not able to have an application list because you're not seniors. This sample account isn't a senior account of the former college and career counselor, who we like to name. So this bumps into your account, I believe, July 15th when you are switched to a senior going into your senior year. So that's the NAVIANCE piece of the college planning process. It seems like it's a lot. It seems like it's tedious. It's simply stuff that we ask for the benefit of both you and us down the road so that we're all on the same page. We're all able to make sure that we have all the information needed. When we do apply, we're all able to get the information out. Both you're able to get your information to the colleges on your end through the application process, your SATs, your ACTs, which will be spoken about in a little bit, and we're able to send your transcripts out. And this way, it's not that 6 weeks later you're coming into my office saying, school X didn't get my transcript. So we want you guys to be entrenched in NAVIANCE, know what you're doing in NAVIANCE, so that when it comes time to apply to schools, you know what you're doing moving forward, okay? Next up, we have Mr. Daly talking about a few things in the college process.
Thank you. And thank you again. There certainly are a lot of people here, which is great. When I was home in the privacy of my bathroom rehearsing, I was very confident. You get here and you see all these people, it's a totally different ball game. So I hope I remember everything. Just by show of hands, how many of you parents or students that are here are going through this for the first time? So that's quite a bit. So I think I've been presenting at this evening for the last 17 years. And tonight's a little bit different because my son, who is a senior, is kind of wrapping up the process, having just made his decision. So, and a family grabbed me in the hallway earlier and said, what advice would you have for families going through this for the first time? And I think the only thing I would really say is you got to jump right in. The window's open right now, whether you're a sophomore or a junior, to explore all of the options that are out there. And hopefully we're going to give you a little guidance to do that. But by the time you come back in the fall of your senior year, like Mr. Brett said, we usually see about 4 to 6 college applications per student. 2 of them should be pretty safe bets. you meet or exceed their admission criteria. 2 of them, you should line up with their admission criteria pretty neatly. And then there might be a school or 2 that's a bit of a reach. But if the folks reviewing your application are in a good mood that day, the stars are aligned, whatever, there may be a shot to get into that school. So we're jumping in here. I think a good place to start, and these are just some guiding questions to get you started. What am I looking for? Am I looking for the traditional 4-year college experience with a bachelor's degree? And there has been a pretty big growth in the number of programs that wrap in your undergrad and your graduate program. So maybe within 5 years you can graduate with a master's degree or higher. Oftentimes those are pretty accelerated programs. You might not get your summer break. You might be required to take the winter intersession, that sort of thing. And then there's always 2-year options, the associate's degree. I think in the years I've been here, we have seen a large shift in the number of students that choose to go to Montgomery County Community College. There's a variety of reasons, but oftentimes maybe they're not real clear on what their anticipated career field is. Or a lot of folks have identified the financial benefits of Montgomery County Community College. A lot of us take it for granted because it's right in our backyard, but it is one of the best community colleges in the country. And then lastly, there's certainly a large number of trade schools and technical schools that some of our students are going to be considering. So some general guiding questions. You can see here there's some questions that the student needs to ask. What are they looking for in a college? Do they want to go far from home? Do they want to stay close to home? I think my son said it has to be far enough that mom and dad can't just drop in. Size of school. This is a personal decision. I can tell you my sister went to a very, very small college with about 800 students. My college had about 40,000 students. It's really a matter of preference. The academics and the major, I think Mr. Brett just walked through a number of things in NAVIANCE. I think it's best to identify what your anticipated major is and then find a school that offers that instead of the opposite. I don't think you should go to the school website and run your finger down the list of options and pick that way. Competitiveness, a number of students have worked very hard over the years to have the opportunity to consider a selective school. And there's a number of X factors. I can tell you when we took our visits, my son looked a lot at the dining halls. I think we ate at every dining hall. Just different things on the campus, supports that are available. If he's not doing very good in math, what options are there for tutoring or support, things like that. And lastly, the cost. It would be nice if money was no object. It would probably make things a lot easier. But at the end of the day, not only do we want these students getting a degree and working in the field of their choice, we want to minimize or ideally eliminate any debt that they're going to be facing once they graduate. And then the column to the right is what is the college looking for in you? And at the top of every college's list is going to be your academic background, your academic performance. The larger schools oftentimes have a simple formula. For example, Penn State, being a very large institution, 2/3 of their decision is based on your grades. 2/3 of their decision is based on your transcript and your GPA. The other 1/3 of their decision is based on your SAT scores. Okay, so Penn State, big school, pretty black and white. Other schools, and generally smaller schools, will start to look at a more holistic picture. They will start to take into consideration a personal statement that you might write. They will take into account teachers' letters of recommendations. Some of your very selective schools have interviews, or they'll take the time to really look at your resume and see if you've been involved in extracurricular activities or positions of leadership. So one of the biggest questions we get is about academic performance, and I think this year, as we're trying to get everyone in the rhythm of NAVIANCE, all transcripts for the 11th grade, 10th grade too? 10th and 11th graders' transcripts have been uploaded into NAVIANCE. So you can see your child's transcript as it stood at the beginning of this year. So the question is, what is on the transcript? It'll be the classes that you took from at the end of every year, so 9th, 10th, and 11th grades, and it will also have your final grades for those classes. And it will also reflect the classes that students are taking in their senior year. So you can see here, this is a sample transcript. The top left corner is the student's 9th grade body of work. So you can see the classes that they took, the final grade that they earned, and the number of credits that it yielded. Top right-hand corner would be the same thing for 10th grade. Lower left-hand corner is 11th grade, and lower right corner is 12th grade. So the colleges do see, when you're applying in the fall of your senior year, they will see whatever your GPA was at the end of 11th grade, but they will also see the courses that you're pursuing in your senior year. And colleges have indicated that they want to make sure that you're continuing to take a rigorous curriculum during your senior year. A common question we often get about GPA: how is GPA calculated? Generally, we take the 5 majors that yield the highest number of quality points. So an A in a 4.0 level class yields 4 quality points. An A in a 5.0 class yields 5 quality points. And an A in a 6.0 class yields 6 quality points. So we take the 5 majors that yield the highest number of quality points, and that determines your GPA. There are courses that are ineligible for exclusion, meaning they have to be included in your GPA. So when you look in the program of studies, if you see in parentheses next to a course the letters IFE, that means it is ineligible for exclusion. It must be part of the GPA. So things like your English class, your required social studies class, math up through and including Algebra 2, and your sciences, physical science, biology, chemistry. Okay? I am going to turn things over to Mrs. McGurman. The question is, what's the difference between weighted GPA and non-weighted GPA? Weighted GPA takes into account the level of your courses. So it'll take into consideration whether you've taken honors classes or AP level classes. Okay, whereas the unweighted GPA turns a blind eye to the level of your classes.
Thanks, Brian. So the one thing, just while we still have the transcript up here, why we took the time and uploaded this transcript into all 10th and 11th grade students' NAVIANCE accounts, because we wanted them to see it. And this is really the first time that we've had them take a really good look at what their transcript looks like. And this is a copy, and what is uploaded into your student's account is a copy of what's going to eventually get sent out to colleges. So we wanted them to take a hard look at it, because what I get asked as a junior counselor, and I'm sitting down with kids doing course selection for their senior year, is how can I improve that GPA and that class rank? You know, am I able to jump up a couple hundred points in my last semester of their junior year? And the answer is no. And that's why we wanted to take, you know, and have the opportunity for 10th graders to take a look at it, you know, really early on, and to show them the importance of grades. And that's the one important thing that we stressed when we did course selection meetings. Really, what is important as a 10th grader, as an 11th grader, it's just that final grade. That final grade is what we use to calculate that GPA and that class rank. So if you have a little hiccup that in second marking period, you didn't do as well as you wanted to, just knock it out of the park for the third and fourth marking period and that final grade, because it is just that final grade that's going to be used in that calculation. So as a sophomore, what do you need to do to start thinking about post-high school education? So, like I mentioned, good grades. Every B+, if you can push a B+ to an A, it makes a huge difference in your GPA. That B to the B+ makes a big difference in the calculation of the GPA. So really, really just push as we're entering mid-third marking period, getting those grades up. The other thing that was mentioned by Mr. Daly, those more selective schools are going to take a look at the activities that you're involved in. I always say 2. 2's a good number. You don't need to be involved in 7 or 8 different activities. 2, as long as you've, and longevity too. They don't want you to jump in and out of activities. So if you have something that you've played, you know, soccer since you've been really in 7th or 8th or 9th grade, that's a great activity just to put on there. Any kind of activities, it doesn't necessarily have to be in school. It can be if you outside of school, any volunteering, if you are involved with scouts or your church or anything like that. Those are all great activities. Again, jumping back to what Mr. Brett said, to put on that resume. And as a counselor, I can write a much better recommendation letter if I know the student as a whole. The other thing that we had talked about is all 10th and 11th graders have taken PSATs at least once. 10th grade parents that are sitting in the room, your student will have the opportunity to take PSATs one more time next year, but they do have to pay for it as a junior. But it's a great practice SAT version before they sit and take the actual SATs. So as a counselor, I always recommend for the $14 that it costs to take the PSATs, to go ahead and sit and take them. It's always during school, so it's not real painful that they have to get up early one Saturday morning. The other thing is, sophomore, it's never too early, like Mr. Brett had mentioned, 20, 30 on that NAVIANCE account, and then start narrowing it down as you're going through 10th into 11th grade. Begin college visits. I always say, and I had two sons that came through North Penn and went on to college, but I always say a college picks your student. It's really important that they put their feet on campuses, and they'll be able to feel whether they belong there. And so it's nice if you can't get out to visit a lot of schools, take a city school and take a more rural or suburban school and visit that. Like visit a Temple, that's not too far away. Or Pitt's a great city school to kind of visit, and then you can narrow your search down. If you put your feet on a city campus and you think, I just don't like this environment, then you can go back into your NAVIANCE account, unclick that you want to be in a city environment, and it narrows that search down for you even further. So again, Mr. Brett said earlier, this is your student's decision. And I always like, if you go on a college visit, ask them what they think before you let them know what you think. Because you don't want them to be influenced by your thought. So it's really great if you can only get to 2 campuses or only get to 2 colleges, try a city and a more suburban campus to get a feel for both of them. As a junior year, again, continuing to work hard. I can't stress enough. Grades, grades, grades are really important. You don't want to get where we are right now, starting to do course selection for senior year, and be able to be out of the running before you're in the running because you just didn't do what you needed to do grade-wise, because it's really hard to play catch-up. So sophomores' final grades are really important. Juniors' final grades are really important. Because if we jump back to that transcript, your GPA gets calculated officially 3 times, at the end of 9th grade, at the end of 10th grade, and at the end of 11th grade. So really, your colleges are going to be making a decision on you based on that official calculation at the end of 11th grade. Again, continuing with activities, don't over-extenuate yourself. Don't, because grades, again, 2 activities, 3 activities are really great. And if one of those activities happens to be a sport or marching nights or something that has a whole lot of involvement in it, just make sure that you're balancing your activity life, your school life, and your mental and physical well-being altogether. NAVIANCE, researching schools. Again, I can't stress enough how much or how important NAVIANCE is. It really is like what we like to say, kind of like a Wawa for college. It's like a one-stop shop that you can do a lot of searching around and picking around to figure out what schools, and come back your senior year with that 5 to 7. We kind of all have a number right around in there. But also think about, for the 31, our record breaker here, each one of those costs between $50 and $80 for an admission fee for that. So if you calculate up, that's a big chunk of money. So, and along with that are essays and a lot of things that you have to take into consideration early into your senior year. What you should also be thinking about as we're getting towards the end, SATs, there's one in March, so if you haven't registered for the March one, there's one in May and June. Registration for those are about a month in advance. So I always like to tell kids, take it twice to kind of get a really good feel for what your ability is. Start signing up for college visits. College visits come into the College and Career Center through NAVIANCE. So you can sign and take a look at those schools that you're not going to be able to put your feet on campus to visit with their admission counselor here at North Penn. The summer before senior year, and that's really, I guess I'm speaking to my juniors, as we're leaving here at North Penn. Again, narrow your list. Everything that Mr. Daly talked about, the academics and rigor and academic support, take those things into consideration, because you're really, you're gonna get on campus and you're gonna get confused by, all the bells and whistles that each college has to offer. Just know what you're looking for, and again, have that major picked before you go and visit colleges. Physically, the physical work, again, doing all the stuff that Mr. Brett and Mr. Daly talked about. The one really nice thing that we do offer here the week before your senior year starts, we call it NAVIANCE Boot Camp. So it's a $20 fee, which then you can roll that $20 fee into sending out transcripts. But we, as counselors, along with Mr. Brett, spend 2 days here and get the rising seniors into really good shape as far as their applications. So that's something to take a look for as we enter into August and take advantage of that boot camp. Just to understand some terms, early decision. This is one thing that I would caution against. Early decision when you get to applying for schools. It's a binding decision, meaning you're going there regardless of how much financial aid they give you. This is a school that you've imagined, you've dreamed, you've always wanted to go to, and no matter what the cost is, no matter how much financial aid they give you, you want to go there. So you're going to sign an agreement. Me as a counselor, I have to sit down and go over that agreement with you, basically stating, again, if you get in, you're going there. And it's very, very difficult to get out of. So I would caution against the early decision. There's something else called early action. And early action is something fairly new that colleges are offering out, that they're kind of saying, okay, if you have all your application and your paperwork and SAT scores into me by November 1st, then I'm going to give you a quicker decision. I know when I went to visit University of Maryland, they gave me a statistic of 80% of their applicants came from that early action or that November 1st deadline. So if they have an early action deadline, it's really worth it to kind of take advantage of that because there are some benefits that go along with that. Regular decision, and if you, again, you go back to NAVIANCE, all this information populates in there based on the schools that you're applying to. Just make sure, I always tell kids, don't be out of the running before you're in the running. Make sure you meet all those deadlines. And rolling. Rolling admission or rolling decision is kind of what we kind of call like a first come, first serve. So for example, Penn State is rolling admission. So if you get all your paperwork, everything into them, they're going to make a decision based on how many open spots they have at that time. So it's easier to get in on an earlier side than to wait until you're getting into like December or January to apply, because there's fewer number of spots to give out for admission. I think is it. And I'm going to turn it over to Jennifer Flacco.
Okay, so who here feels a little bit overwhelmed? It's a lot of information, right? And especially if this is your first time. Already we went from sophomore to junior, and now we're ending with the fall of our senior year. So really these are just a couple checkpoints for the fall of your senior year. If you do need to take the SATs or ACTs again, that's what you would like to do. You want to join us for our financial aid night. You want to join us for our college application night, which will really walk you through the process. You want to come for those athletes to our NCAA and also to the Montgomery County PACAC College Fair. So I know we had talked a lot in the beginning about NAVIANCE and how important that is. I could tell you before starting here this year, I was at Pembroke for 8 years. Being at Pembroke was great because we got to follow the students, so 7th grade to 8th grade to 9th grade, which is now what we're doing, which is great. Because I can tell you that the seniors I see now, I had them when they were like this big as 7th graders, and now they just tower over me. But some standardized testing that's important is in spring of 2018, that you want to do the SAT reasoning test. There's SAT 1, which is in May, in March, and in June. There's also the subject test area, and that would be if it's applicable to your college, if they require it. You're going to be sending your scores to College Board. And for SAT prep, there's the PSAT, there's the Khan Academy, which is a free online resource that I've heard a lot of great things about. SAT courses, personal tutors, or if you are taking the ACTs. So really it does seem like a lot of information, but you have a lot of individuals who have been here for a lot longer than I have. No offense, Mr. Daly. But you do have a lot of professionals that have been here, and we're all here for one reason, and that is to make sure that your child graduates and they move on to the dreams that they have, whatever that might look like. Class rank. We'll get over this a little bit. It's the top 5 majors, so the IFE courses. And if you do look at the program of study that is online, you will see right next to it, it'll say IFE. You are ranked from 9th grade to 12th grade. So at the end of 9th grade, we don't rank between the middle schools, but you will have a class rank. And then at the end of 10th grade, we will re-rank. And you can see the program of studies for some further information. Like I said, I am in the sophomore home office, letters A through G, so I look forward to getting to know your child as we go over the next couple of years.
So just some resources to end on. We have the College and Career Center. During the school day, students can stop in at any time during the day as long as they are not in class. So if they have a study hall or a lunch study or nighttime or 8B, they're more than welcome to come down. Juniors, if you decide to take no school period 1 or no school period 8 next year, you can utilize those free times to come down and see me in the office. K31 is where the College and Career Center is located. If I find out that you came during a class time, there's going to be trouble because then the teachers get mad at me, and I don't like that. Especially being my wife, being a teacher here. When she gets mad at me here, it's even worse than when it's at home. So please don't do that if you skip her class to come down and see me. Also, we have Wednesday evening hours. Sometimes it's Tuesday or Thursday, depending on what's going on, but typically it's a Wednesday evening, anytime from 2:15, 3:15, 4:15, or 5:15 meetings available for your family. So all I ask is that if you're coming, the student be there, that you bring your child, and you can come with a parent or 2 parents or whoever it may be for the family meeting. That's a meeting that's going to be much more personalized than what we're going over right here. So we can talk about all this stuff, but more pertaining to you as your academics and your process moving forward. One thing that was mentioned by Mrs. McGurman was our college visits. So right now, I think we have about 6 college visits available in the next couple months. And the way that works is you go into NAVIANCE under the colleges tab, you'll see a list of colleges that are coming to North Penn High School. And those lists will grow, they'll shrink depending on the time of the year. So if a school is coming that you like, you just click on the school, you click sign me up, and you're signed up. Now that everyone has a Chromebook, you can have that saved in that's going to be saved in your NAVIANCE, and you use that as your pass to get out of class, because they don't come during specific class periods. They'll come for like 45 minutes from 11 to 11:45. And with our schedule, which I know is very confusing, sometimes it doesn't line up with a full class period, doesn't line up with lunch. But if you have to miss a class, you're more than welcome to come down and see that college. If you're going to miss a test, please, I ask that you go take your test, and we'll figure out some information. You can always come down and see me before, and I'll mention your name to the college rep. But Mrs. McGurman also mentioned get your feet on campus, get to see, get to talk to people. Colleges do track, not all of them, but colleges do track your interest. So if I'm applying to school A and you're applying to school A, and you went and you came down to see them when they were here at North Penn and I didn't, and we have the same credentials, they're going to give you the benefit of the doubt over me. They want to make sure that you're showing what I like to call showing them your love, showing them that you are interested in that school. There's been plenty of times where we've called a school and said, why didn't this kid get in? They have phenomenal academic records. They have, incredible essay, incredible, resume, what's going on? And they say, we didn't think they were interested. We thought we were a backup school. That's why they were deferred. And it's mind-boggling, but we understand. They only want the students that are interested in them. So show your interest, okay? NAVIANCE, I mentioned. The guidance website has some other resources on it as well, some financial aid resources. We have the college representative fairs. The college representatives come in, as I mentioned. The fair, we used to host a fair in the fall, but now it's we used to host a fair in the spring. Now it's in the fall. It's the PACAC fair that Mrs. Flacco mentioned. And please, like I said, NAVIANCE is not the be-all and end-all. It is a barometer. Go check out the school's websites. Go check out the schools themselves. Talk to the admissions officers. Get your name out there. Get your foot in the door. Go speak to whoever you can on campus to get what it really is like. Okay? Now we'll take some general questions. Please hold any personal questions to the very end. We'll take probably 4 or 5 questions. If you have to leave, please go ahead. Go enjoy the beautiful weather. If you want to ask some general questions, we'll take them at this current time. If not, have a great night and enjoy the weather. Yes? So financial aid itself is not necessarily integrated with NAVIANCE, but scholarships absolutely is. There's a full scholarship section in the colleges tab of NAVIANCE. No, it does not only include schools that are based in the United States.
Weighted versus unweighted GPAs, is it one, do colleges lean on one versus the other, or are they pretty even?
Great question. The question was, do colleges look more at the weighted GPA versus the non-weighted GPA? And what I will say is that it depends on the college you're looking at. So, for instance, Penn State takes our weighted GPA. Penn State, Temple, and Pitt take our weighted GPA and recalculate it into a weighted 4.0 GPA. They will not give me the formula. I have asked multiple times. But no school has given us the, excuse me, oh, we're just going to look at weighted versus non-weight. It's really by school itself, which school picks what. And like I said, the 3 big state schools in our state-affiliated schools in our state take our weighted and recalculate it. Sure. You're welcome. Someone else had a question, yes. So the question was, what's the benefit of taking the ACT versus the SAT is the question? Right. No, there's no benefit for you to take both. My advice for the SAT versus the ACT, I have 2 points here is, if you take the SAT, about a 4+ hour test, and afterwards you're like, that was the worst thing I've ever done in my life, then maybe it's time to take the ACT. There's also a link that I can send out that is it's by Kaplan, which is a standardized test conglomerate, I guess, for lack of a better term. And that link will give you a couple survey questions to tell you which test you should take. Yes?
But we just went to Syracuse, and they asked that you take the ACT and the SAT.
Just because they asked doesn't mean that they're going to not.
They said they looked at that. They
But
said they want you to take the ACT and the SAT, and that they look at both of those.
As far as I know, I've never been told that by Syracuse.
They said they're looking at them right now, and that they do look at both, that they
Sure.
take both of them.
Right, but they're not going to they can't require you to take both.
I know they said they can't, but they do look at that in determining.
Okay.
I mean,
That's
you
fine.
told me that.
Okay.
You told me that as a little FYI.
Okay, great.
I'm just saying.
Thank you. Sure. Thank you. Yes. I'm sorry?
On the transcript, when you send to the college, does the PSAT score go on it?
No standardized test score is on the transcript. It's all on NAVIANCE. And the reason why it's on NAVIANCE is because that's how they sign up. There's a third party called Rep Visits that is linked with NAVIANCE, and it links it to it. We've been trying to get them on North Penn Television and that they're on. They're just not updated as often as we'd like them to be, and that's my fault. I think a student should probably check every week, maybe every Wednesday, every Thursday, once a week just to see. The fall is going to be a much different time than the spring. The spring is going to be a couple here and there. The fall is going to be loaded. I mean, there were days where I had 8 schools coming in on a day in the fall. All right, if you have personalized questions, you're more than welcome to come up. If not, have a great night. Thank you so much. Take care.